Welcome to Miss Perry's video lectures. Today's lecture will be the second in a series of math review and will be on algebra and trigonometry. For physics class, you will often need to rearrange an equation and solve for an unknown variable. For example, we have the following equation: 3x plus 2 equals 8. Take a moment to pause your video and solve for x. In order to solve for x, first, I could subtract 2 from both sides of the equation and be left with 3x equals 6. But in order to get x all by itself, I have to divide both sides by 3, leaving me with x equals 2. Also in physics, you may have to do algebra with letters. But remember, any math you do with numbers, you can also do with letters. So we have the same format equation, 3a plus b equals c. Solve for a in terms of b and c. Take a moment to pause your video and solve for a. In order to solve for a, first, we can subtract b from both sides, leaving us with 3a equals c minus b. In order to get a all by itself, we'll divide both sides by 3, giving us a final answer of a is equal to c minus b divided by 3. With geometry and trigonometry, important equations to know are the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which applies to right triangles, and also the trig functions sine, cosine, and tangent. Theta refers to the angle in your triangle, and sides A, B, and C are labeled for you on this triangle to the right, and also all of these formulas appear in your reference tables. Here's an example of where you would need to use geometry and trig to solve a physics problem. A soccer ball is kicked with an initial horizontal velocity of 5 meters per second to the right and an initial vertical velocity of 7 meters per second up. Calculate the magnitude of the resultant velocity, v, in order to calculate the resultant velocity, we would use Pythagorean's theorem. So the horizontal velocity squared plus the vertical velocity squared is equal to the resultant velocity squared. I would substitute in my numbers with units. So 5 meters per second squared plus 7 meters per second squared is equal to my resultant velocity v squared. Solve for v. I would get a resultant velocity of 8.6 meters per second. Notice, this value is just the magnitude, the size of my velocity. I also need to find out the direction of my resultant velocity. That direction can be found by finding my angle theta in my triangle. In order to do that, I can use any one of my trig functions now that I know all 3 sides of my triangle. Here I chose tangent. So tangent of our angle theta is equal to my opposite side, which is the vertical velocity, divided by my adjacent side, which is the horizontal velocity. I can rearrange that equation so that the value that I'm solving for is all by itself. In order to do that, you would have to take the inverse tangent of both sides of the equation. Now I can solve for theta by plugging in to my formula 7 meters per second and 5 meters per second. Take the inverse tangent of that fraction, and you get an answer of 54 degrees, and specifically it's above the horizontal. Luckily, these formulas and a few others like area and circumference are right on your reference table, so no need to memorize, it's all right there for you. Now you have a few more tools to put in your physics toolkit. Any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to talk to me during class or after school.